Hare Krishna Mataji, is it me who's recording or is it you who's recording? Prabhuji, would you know? Okay. Okay, I think it's me recording. That's okay. Just. Hare Krishna. Just going to. Prabhuji, can you hear me properly? Can you hear me properly? Okay, fine. Okay. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Mataji, and Prabhuji for giving me this opportunity to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam and to do service to Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are doing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, verses 11 and 12 today. I will read the shlokas and the purport, and then we will try and serve the verses together. So we start with the Mangalacharan. I don't know if anyone would like to do the Mangalacharan, or would Prabhuji or Mataji, would you like to do the Mangalacharan? Okay, maybe I'll do it. Just go there. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnana-Shalakaya Chakshurudmilitam Yena Tashmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kyatamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandyaham Sri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Avitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savadutam parijana sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindha Dina Bandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Rupyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just going to check the record. Okay. Ajata Shatru Patriyachatayam Titikshatu Durvisaham Tavagaha Sahanuja Yatra Vrikotarahi Swasan Rusha Yatvam Alam Vibheshi. Translation: Vidura said, "You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthira, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He's waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the vengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him." Verse 12. Partamstu Devo Bhagavan Mukundo Grita Vanshakshiti Deva Devaha Aste Swapuryam Yadudeva Deva Vinirjita Shesha Nirdeva Devaha. Translation: Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings and princes of the Yadu dynasty, who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their lord. Vidura purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vidura gave Dhritarashtra very good counsel regarding political alliance with the sons of Pritha, the Pandavas. The first thing he said was that Lord Krishna was intimately related with them as their cousin. Because Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is worshipable by all Brahmanas and demigods, who are the controllers of the universal affairs. Besides that, Lord Krishna and his family members, the royal order of the Yadu dynasty, were the conquerors of all kings of the world. The Kshatriyas used to fight the kings of various dominions and kidnap their beautiful princess daughters after conquering their relatives. This system was laudable because the Kshatriyas and the princesses would be married only on the basis of the chivalry of the conquering Kshatriya. All the young princes of the Yadu dynasty married the daughters of other kings in this way by chivalrous force, and thus they were conquerors of all the kings of the world. Vidura wanted to impress his elder brother that fighting with the Pandavas was fraught with many dangers because they were supported by Lord Krishna, who had conquered even in his childhood demons like Kamsa and Jarasandha and demigods like Brahma and Indra. Therefore, all universal power was behind the Pandavas. Okay, I'm just going to try and see if this can be. Right, so that is verses 11 and 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you very much again for giving me the opportunity to do service today. So we are continuing with what we discussed earlier. We talked about the character of Vidura. We talked about the character of Duryodhana, and we talked a little bit about Maitreya Rishi in the previous Saturdays, and we are now progressing onwards towards Vidura leaving the Kauravas and then going on his pilgrimage where he would meet Maitreya Rishi. Now, Sanatan Goswami, or rather in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila 24.318, it says, Krishna Tulla Bhagavad Vibhu Sharbasroy Prati shloke prati akkare nana artha koi. Or, in other words, it says that Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna himself, the Supreme Lord and shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and in each and every syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are various meanings. And that is what we have to remember. So in every single verse, every single syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is just so much meaning. Sanatan Goswami says that every single syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam has pure love of Godhead. And so when we recite the Srimad Bhagavatam, when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we try to reflect on the words, our heart is being flooded with spirituality and spiritual benefit. And I also heard Keshav Maharaj mention this as well in one of his classes, that how fortunate we are to be reading the Srimad Bhagavatam because it's none other than Krishna himself. And so as we go into the verses today, we see how Vidura himself in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Krishna, in book Srimad, in book Krishna, Vidura is glorifying Krishna again and reminding Dhritarashtra just how much of a fool he is to turn away from Krishna and his devotees. So in the first verse, so in verse number 11 does not have any purport. It's only the translation. Now we see that uh, Vidura gave advice to Dhritarashtra. He has been giving advice to Dhritarashtra so many times over years and years. I mean, right from when Duryodhana was born, there were, very, very wrong omens. And Vidura did ask Dhritarashtra not to keep the child, and get rid of the child because it's, or rather, even before Duryodhana came into the world, Vidura said, just consult with somebody because it's lots of bad omen. Dhritarashtra obviously did not listen to this. And then we see throughout over the years, Vidura saying the same thing, that you are actually with the wrong people. You are supporting your son blindly. And that is only bringing in more and more misfortune to you, and accruing more and more wrong with you and with your karma, because it's all going to come out one day, because you're not going to be able to escape what you're doing now. But obviously, Dhritarashtra, as we have discussed, he was blind, not only physically blind, but he was blind in his conscience as well. And he did not take the advice of Vidura, and both him and Duryodhana did not take the advice of Vidura, which was not really just for Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. But if you look into it, this advice was for the whole of mankind. And that is where we are reminded, why is Vidura regarded as such a great devotee and such a wise man, great wise man? Because the wisdom that he gave was, okay, just give me a sec, I'm just trying to fix my um, laptop here, because the advice that Vidura gave was not just for one family, not just for the Kauravas, but because it was for the whole of mankind. Because Vidura could see that, the way Duryodhana was behaving, that is only going to lead to destruction. And he could see that Krishna is there on the Pandava side. It's it's going to go towards a war. It is going to involve the kings of all over the world, and it is going to, bring in destruction, not just to this land, but to a lot, entire world, and bring destruction to mankind. So Vidura could see that. And so, as Chanakya Pandit, who is again a great philosopher, a great wise man, who is quoted quite a lot by Srila Prabhupada in his teachings, Chanakya Pandit said that a king is praised, idolized, revered, respected, followed, and listened to in one's own kingdom. A king is limited to being listened to and respected in one's own kingdom, but a wise man is listened to and respected all over the world. And so, including the demigods. You see, there was a king, we had a king, but also a wise man in Maharaj Ambarish. And even the demigods revered him. So we see Bhishma Deva, when Bhishma Deva was leaving the material world, the demigods came there because they wanted to pay respects to him. So a wise man is revered all over the world, and in all parts of the universe, even from the heavenly planets, the demigods. So, so we understand that, Duryodhana, he wanted to become the great king in his own kingdom, but he didn't realize that he was bringing in destruction onto himself and to so many people. And in the end, that respect that he wanted to get from people, he was actually, ironically, by not listening to Vidura's wisdom, he was going to lose it in the end, or he was in the process of losing it. And so we see that people, when we want to make people understand, one gives examples and analogies. So, there's the king and there's the wise man. They just cannot be compared. The king can be a wise man and a wise man can be a king, but they are very different otherwise if they are, separate people. So that is the reason in the olden times, in the Vedic times, we see that the kings, they kept brahmanas as their advisors. We have heard how Parikshit Maharaj in the purports before, we've seen how Parikshit Maharaj always used to take seek advice from his counselors. We see King Dasharath in Ramayana. He had his counselor in sage in Vashishta Muni, a great Muni. So they took advice from Brahmins. And as we have seen, as Krishna has told over and over again in the Bhagavad Gita, and it's splattered all over the Shastras, Brahmanas does not mean just being born in Brahmin families. The definition of Brahmana is someone who has the knowledge of Brahmo, the supreme personality of Godhead. So a wise, educated, intelligent man cannot just automatically become a Brahmana or a wise man like Vidura. And so we see, again, going back to Chanakya Pandit, we see Chanakya Pandit said that a wise, educated, and intelligent man has three main qualities. First of all, they looked at others' property as dirt or garbage. They were just not interested at all in bringing others' property into their own home, because they didn't think of them to be their own property. And they looked upon others' property as garbage, as dirt. Secondly, such people never treated others' wives disrespectfully, and always treated others' wives as mothers. And thirdly, such people, such wise men, they always saw all other living entities as they would see themselves. So if they wanted respect, they would, understand that every single living entity requires respect. Nobody needs to be harmed. And they saw Krishna in all. So these are the three main qualities of a wise man, as Chanakya Pandit says. And we see that, we were talking about it the other day, how after Chanakya Niti, Vidur Niti is equally respected. Vidura had the same wisdom. And so Vidura was equally wise. And so we see by listing these three, what is being highlighted over here is just how wrong Duryodhana is, because he has committed mistakes. So he has actually gone against all the three things that have been listed over here. So he has looked upon others' property. He wanted to seize the property of the Pandavas. He has looked wrongfully at somebody else's wife. He along with his brothers, he disrespected Draupadi in the assembly. And thirdly, he did not want others to be treated the same way as he wanted him to be treated. He wanted him to be treated in a special way, above everybody else. And so he was envious of one who wanted to become greater than him, or showed showed to be in a better position than him. His pride, his greed, and his envy overtook him. But Vidura, despite being born to a maidservant, he was actually doing the role of a Brahmana. He was a great devotee, and he had the Brahmanical qualities to be able to give wisdom to Dhritarashtra all along, and to Duryodhana. And he does the same thing in verse number 11 again. But we see a slight change in Vidura's voice over here, in his tone. He was actually, almost telling off Dhritarashtra. He says, you must return the property that belongs to Yudhishthira, because that's their legitimate right. Because, and such people, Yudhishthira, he's a great devotee. He has no enemies. And, you and your sons, they have brought so much suffering unto them over the years. The least you can do is just give him his property. He's waiting along with his young brothers to go back into, to do his dharma of rule the kingdom. And here we see Vidura say to Dhritarashtra in a slightly um, in a very, very, trying to ridicule him by saying that, you know what, you should be frightened. You really, really should be frightened because there Bhima is waiting along with all his younger brothers. Bhima is waiting as well. And Bhima is extremely angry because of all the things that you have done to the Pandavas over the year. Yes, Bhima is just waiting over there like a snake. Breathing heavily like a snake, just ready to bring harm, ready to fight, ready to take back what rightfully belongs to them. Surely you must be afraid of the Pandavas and especially of Bhima. Surely you must be frightened of them. So over here we see Vidura, he was giving wisdom, he was telling Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra so far of how, trying to make them understand and see what is right, what is wrong. But seeing that there is absolutely no effect on either Dhritarashtra or on Duryodhana, there is absolutely no effect on them on what they are doing. He tries to talk to them and make them see the truth, and he just says things in a very, very, very straightforward way. Because he understood. Again, he's a devotee. And he understood one thing, that Duryodhana was not a devotee. Even Dhritarashtra was not a devotee. And what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? In Bhagavad Gita 2.40, Krishna says, Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Or Krishna talks about fear. Krishna says that a little advancement on the path of devotion can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So anyone who is even a tiny bit of a devotee feels protected and can be protected from fear. But Duryodhan was not a devotee. Devotees are fearless because Krishna is with them. It's just like, you have a powerful man holding, if you have a powerful man holding your hand and walking through the street, you are fearless, even if it's a dangerous place to be in. But as soon as that powerful man goes away and you're by yourself, you start feeling fearful. And that is what, fear is with one who doesn't have Krishna. Because Krishna says, again, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, those who always worship me, in verse 9.22, Krishna says, those who always worship me, meditating on me and meditates on me, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Yoga Kshemam Vahami Aham. I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Krishna protects us and Krishna also gives us what we lack. So if Krishna is with us, there is absolutely no fear. But Vidura knows that Duryodhana is not a devotee. And so, to Dhritarashtra, to Duryodhana, Vidura tries to put a bit of fear in them. Says, are you not fearful of Bhima? Are you not fearful of the Pandavas? They are waiting, just waiting because you've just made so many wrongs on them. But again, we also know that Vidura is a great devotee. And devotees, what is the most important feature of a devotee? A devotee or a Bhagavad Bhakt, a Bhagavad, God, Bhakt, devotee, a Bhagavad Bhakt is the most and the most merciful. And he, such a devotee, wants to make every single jiva, every single living entity understand and follow the path of devotion, follow the path of dharma, follow the path of good and go according to Krishna's will. And so a devotee gives every possible chance to someone to rectify their own selves if they are going in the path of wrong. And so Vidura, he tries to rectify or tries to make Duryodhana see sense. He fails to do that. And then we see just in verse 11, we see Vidura trying to make Dhritarashtra a bit fearful, or Duryodhana a bit fearful. But then immediately he changes his tone again, because he could not hold on to that tone, because he's a devotee. He just wanted to be, just make Vidura, make Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana understand. And so that brings us to verse 12, a very, very, very interesting verse. Because we see over here, he immediately tries to make them understand again. So the first verse, if you read the verse again, we see it starts with Parthamstu Devo Bhagavan Mukunda. So right in the first line, there are 4 lines in this verse. Right in the first line, there are 2 words. There's Devo and there's Bhagavan Mukunda. The second line, there is Grihatavan Sakshiti Deva Devaha. Deva, mention of God again, Deva Devaha. The third line, again, right at the end of that line, it says Deva Devo. And the last line says Deva Deva again. So we see this verse 12, has 4 lines, and every single line has the name of Krishna. Mukunda, he said Deva, Deva, he's even God of the gods. Deva is the God, he's even God of the gods. He's the God, and he says the same thing in the third and the fourth lines. So he's mentioning Krishna's name again and again in every single verse. Sorry, every single line of this verse. So he's talking about people. He's also talking about, people who are illuminated in knowledge. Partha, he mentions Arjuna, someone who is illuminated in knowledge, because that is the reason he is with Mukunda, he is with Krishna. Now, what else is this? Right at the first line, he says, Parthams Devo Bhagavan Mukunda. He talks about Arjuna, Partha, who is the son of Pritha. Pritha is Kunti Devi, and the son of Pritha is Partha, which is another name for Arjuna. And so Vidura mentions Partha and says Bhagavan Mukunda, he is with Mukunda in the first line. So he talks about someone who's a devotee, who's illuminated with the knowledge that Krishna is the supreme power. And he talks about the supreme power. He talks about the protector, Krishna, and the protected, Arjuna, over here in the same line. And then he also talks about, where, and we also we'll come back to this line again right at the end of our discussion. So in this, and so what is Vidura trying to tell Dhritarashtra? He's trying to highlight to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana over and over again that wake up. Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, is on the side of the Pandavas. Understand that Krishna is Deva Deva. He's Deva Devo. He's the God of gods. He's the supreme power. Everything comes from him. No one is above him. And so why are you like a fool? Why are you fighting him? Have you got no sense at all? So the Pandavas are also being mentioned, referred to over here as Devo. They are the righteous. And because they are the righteous, the Supreme Lord has taken them up as their sons and his family members. The Papa tells us that, it also tells us that to Krishna is all our father. We all come from Krishna. We are all his children. However, Krishna, it's mentioned in the purport over here that Krishna has taken the Pandavas as his children, highlighting the fact that the ones who are righteous, Krishna not only considers everybody as his children, but the ones who are righteous, Krishna gives special protection. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita as well that he comes whenever and wherever there is wrong done unto the sadhus, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam, and he comes to establish dharma over and over again. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Krishna also says, Ye yatamam prapatyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. As you behave with me, I will respond in the same way. So people who follow Krishna, who follow the path of dharma, who are respectful to Krishna, loves Krishna, Krishna responds to them in the same way. Although the overall thing is that we are all Krishna's children, but it's mentioned specially over here in the purport that Krishna takes the Pandavas as his children, as his family, as his kinsmen, to highlight the fact that Krishna appreciates the fact that the Pandavas are righteous people. They could have, to the degree one surrenders unto Krishna, Krishna responds as a father. So the father is more inclined to love the child who listens to him and is not envious of him. We see Dhritarashtra envious of the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra envious even of Krishna. And so to qualify for Krishna's mercy is one has to be one has to show that they are listening. One has to behave in the way that Krishna wants. And we see that is so true of the Pandavas. And that is the reason the first verse of the purport highlights this, why Krishna takes them up as kinsmen. They were Krishna's cousins anyway, because Kunti Devi was Vasudeva's sister. So Krishna's father, Vasudeva, was the brother of Mother Kunti, who was the mother of the Pandavas. So they were cousins, but it is mentioned, it's highlighted again. Why? Not because of the literal sense that they are cousins and their family, but also the fact that Krishna himself embraces them as his own because they are righteous people. The Pandavas were mistreated right from their birth over and over and over again by the Kauravas. Their lives were put in danger so many times, whether it's giving poison to Bhima, whether it's, burning their palace, sending them to, cheating them in the dice game, sending them on exile. There's so many times they were constantly their lives were in danger. And yet, not once did they question Krishna, why? Why Krishna, why me? Not once did Kunti Devi say, why Krishna, why my children? Mother Kunti, as we read in Canto 1, Mother Kunti even told Krishna, give me more misery so that I can remember you more. They were such great devotees, such great, all surrendered unto Krishna. And the sign of surrendering unto Krishna is knowing that whatever is being done, whatever Krishna is doing, that is only for my benefit. Krishna is always Suhrid. He's always my best well-wisher. Nobody loves me. Nobody thinks better of me other than Krishna. And so the Pandavas or the Kunti, they didn't question as to why all such trouble came to them. They accepted it as providence, just as Parikshit Maharaj did. Parikshit Maharaj, when he was cursed, he could easily have, reversed the curse. He was a great devotee. He could have done that. He didn't. He took that as the will of the Lord. And so does Vidura over here when he's insulted by Duryodhana again, and he sees that Dhritarashtra does not even he doesn't say anything to Duryodhana. Vidura doesn't even think twice. he just leaves. He just leaves the palace, and he leaves the kingdom, and he takes that as the will of the Lord. So so Vidura continues to say in this verse, in verse 12, that, he gives very good counsel to Dhritarashtra, that don't ignore that, this political alliance. First of all, Krishna is the relative of the Pandavas, but they are also with him. And he's present, Krishna is present with the Pandavas. In fact, the Pandavas are with him in his family, with the kings, and also the princes of the Yadu dynasty. I'm just going to mute. And we are told over here of the princes of Yadu dynasty, and we are told over here that the Yadu princes, they were very, very powerful. And we know when Krishna incarnated in Dwapara Yuga, before that he went there. He went and he told many of the demigods, powerful demigods, to take birth in the Yadu family. Which they did. So the Yadus were very, very strong princes, and they had conquered a number of kingdoms, a number of rulers, and Krishna is their Lord. Krishna is the king of the Yadus. And so we also see that something else is also mentioned over here about the Yadus, and it's mentioned over here that the Kshatriyas at the time, they used to fight the kings of various kingdoms and various dominions, and they used to kidnap their beautiful daughters, the princesses, and they used to kidnap them. They used to first conquer those kingdoms, and then they used to kidnap the princesses, and then they used to, bring those princesses back to their own country, and they used to marry those princesses. Now, this system, nowadays, maybe we may not think much of it. We may think this is just forceful marriage, but at the time, this was laudable, because the princess, they would marry the princesses on the basis of chivalry. And that they have conquered the other kingdom, and it is all right. And the young princesses, they were fine with that as well, and they would like to be won over by a prince who has won against, or who has conquered their kingdom. Now, it was also thought that by conquering another kingdom, maybe that would bring, by marrying the princesses, it would also bring friendship, or it would actually bond the two kingdoms. So it could very well, they could have been, rival kingdoms. However, the prince of one kingdom conquering the other kingdom and bringing back the princess and marrying that princess, that could forge a friendship between both the kingdoms who were previously rivals. And so the young Yadu princes, they all did that. They married daughters of other kings in that way. So they were considered to be very, very chivalrous, and because they conquered so many kings all over the world. Just a small tracking here a bit about, the different types of marriages in the Vedic times. Now, it's told there were eight eight ways of marrying in the Vedic times, and they were Brahma marriage, Daiva marriage, Prajapatya marriage, Asura marriage, Gandharvya marriage, Rakshasa marriage, and Paishacha marriage. Brahma, Daiva, Arsa, Prajapatya, Asura, Gandharvya, Rakshasa, and Paishacha marriage. Now, I'm not going into discussion about the various marriages, but Gandharva marriage is still very much done over here. I mean, very recently, someone over here in London ISKCON, we saw two devotees. They got married through Gandharva marriage, where they accepted each other in front of the lordships, and that is done by um, uh, a priest or a devotee and a qualified devotee. But the marriage over here that is referred to in this purport, that kind of marriage is actually called Rakshasa marriage. So Rakshasa marriage, where a prince goes and kidnaps or forcefully takes away, not forcefully, but kidnaps another princess, without permission from the princess's parents or the princess's, people in the princess's country. So it's called a Rakshasa marriage. Now, not all the times are Rakshasa marriages wrong. It may sound wrong because it's named as Rakshasa marriage, but we see over here it's considered to be chivalrous because the princesses would go and they would fight and they would win the princesses and bring them back, though without telling, sometimes by force. But it all came to a right understanding in the end. Now, we also see another very famous marriage that was also a Rakshasa marriage, but it is a marriage that is the most divine. And that is the marriage between Mother Rukmini and Krishna. And Krishna did the same thing. He kidnapped Rukmini. So Rukmini, Mother Rukmini, her brother Rukmi wanted her to marry Shishupal. But Rukmini had heard a lot about Krishna. I mean, it's a big pastime. I'm just making it very short. So Rukmini had heard a lot about Krishna, and she had fallen in love with Krishna. So she didn't want to marry Shishupal. Plus, Shishupal was, not really the ideal person to get married to. So Rukmini sent a letter through a Brahmin to Krishna, telling her that she, how much she was in love with Krishna and how much she wanted him to be her husband. And so Krishna, sent a message back through the Brahmana to Rukmini to wait for him at a place, and then just before the marriage, and then again, to cut a long pastime short, Krishna was able to go to that place and kidnap Rukmini, and then he brought her back to Dwarka, where he marries her. And we all know that's a divine marriage, and Mother Rukmini is a direct expansion of Radharani. So Krishna, in his Narayan form, in his expansion as Narayan, is Dwarikadish, the king of Dwarika, and Mother Rukmini, as a direct expansion of Radharani, is the wife of Krishna. So we see the Madhurya Lila, or Parakya love, which is present in Vrindavan, that becomes Swakya love, the marriage, the love between husband and wife, when in their expansions as Dwarikadish and Rukmini, and the other wives of Krishna in Dwarka. So that was the slide, going off track a bit on the marriage, but just returning to the purport again. So this is the Yadus. They were considered to be very chivalrous because that is how they married. So Vidura is drawing attention to the fact that, look, the Yadus, they have conquered a lot of kingdoms. Please don't have them on the wrong side. And he wanted to impress this upon his elder brother, that the fighting, the Pandavas, was fraught with many, many dangers because they were supported by Lord Krishna. who had conquered, even as a child, he had conquered demons like Kamsa and, so many demons, Putana, and there was the whole of Canto 10 has, so many demons named who Krishna has conquered, even in that first 11 years of his life in Vrindavan. And beyond that, we see after 11 years, when Krishna comes to Mathura and then to Dwarka, he killed so many others. So Vidura is trying to say that even as a child, Krishna has killed so many demons. Do not go on the wrong side of Krishna, because he is the Supreme Personality. He's worshipable by all the Brahmanas, all the demigods, and he is the ultimate controller. So by drawing attention to the fact that the Yadus, Yadu princesses, they have conquered many, and Krishna is the country, he's the king of the Yadus, of these Yadu princesses. What is Vidura also trying to say? He's also trying to say that, look, Krishna is not just the Supreme Lord, he is the ultimate controller. He's the ultimate controller. We can see, what happens nowadays, even in Kali Yuga, we don't really want to accept that. We think that we are in the side of the good. We think that we are all in the side of the Pandavas, but many a times we see that, we are in the side of the Kauravas. Because whereas we know in Satya Yuga, the demons, the Rakshasas, and the good people, they lived in different planets. In Treta Yuga, we see, you Satya Yuga, you see, the Rakshasas, Hiranyakashipu living in a different planet, and, he was terrorizing even the heavenly planets. And then we see in Treta Yuga, the Rakshasas lived in different countries. We see Ravana and Rama living in different countries. We see in Dwapar Yuga, the Rakshasas, or the people with demoniac nature, lived in the same family as in the Pandavas and the Kauravas. But in Kali Yuga, we have, so many anarthas in us that, we see the divine and the demoniac nature in every single human being. Sometimes the divine is better, sometimes the demoniac takes over. And so by default, everyone would like to think that we are all, we have all good qualities. But are we in the side of the Pandavas, or are we in the side of the Kauravas? This is something we are being probed to reflect on over here. And how do we identify that? By what our perspective is, what our thoughts are, what our actions are. It shows us which party we are in the right or in the wrong, with the Pandavas or with the Kauravas. For example, we see during Dasera, people make big effigies of Ravan, and they, burn the effigy of Ravan. But and they make, big speeches of, how Ravan was a wrong person. However, and Ravan himself was a great scholar. He was born to a Brahmin. He was a Brahmin by birth. And we see how Brahmins can never be by birth now, because Ravan was anything but a Brahmin. He was envious towards the Brahma. He was envious towards the Supreme Lord. But we also see nowadays people burning effigies of Ravan, and yet doing so many wrong deeds in their day-to-day actions, killing people, murdering people, harming people. We see politicians making great vows during elections and then not keeping them, doing awful things just to get some votes. And so Vidura is also highlighting, by talking about the Yadus, what he's also highlighting is the very, very big point around associating with the right people. So it's not just associating with the powerful like the Yadus, the righteous and the right like the Pandavas, but also associating with the right people overall. And Dhritarashtra was associating with Duryodhana wrong from the very beginning. He was so blind in his attachment to Duryodhana that he did not see right from the wrong. We see people during Ekadasi, it's Ekadasi, so people, what do people usually do? Sometimes, I was listening to a Krishna Katha the other day, and Guruji was explaining that, people do fasting. People say they do fasting. And what is the fasting in Sanskrit? Fasting is upavas. Upa means the Lord, the Supreme Lord. Vas means you stay with the Lord. You are with the Lord. So Vas means place of stay. So the main function of doing Ekadasi or doing any fasting during any of these auspicious days is to stay with the Lord, is to do all devotional activities, whether it's chanting or serving the Lord. But many a times we just see people, they say, oh, fasting, and then they end up, cooking loads of things and ending up eating lots of things. Yes, they are still keeping to no eating grains and not eating particular type of food or vegetables, but are they actually thinking all the time? Are they being close? Are they staying with the Lord at all times? So these are things which we need to reflect on when we are thinking about, what are we doing? How are we becoming devotees? What is the true meaning of being devotees? And this is what Vidura is trying to do through every single word that he's telling Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. These are the various points he's trying to mention to them that, remember Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He is the ultimate controller. Duryodhana might think that, he's got, we'll see later on, we've heard about the pastime where Duryodhana is very happy to get Krishna's Narayani Sena. And he's very happy that Arjuna chooses just Krishna to be on their side, on the side of the Pandavas. So Duryodhana might think that he is in control. He's still thinking that by refusing to give the Pandavas their fair share, he is the one dictating things. But Vidura is pointing out, no, you're not in control. Krishna is the one in control. Look at, we see so many examples. It says, Rakhe Krishna Mari Krishna Rakhe Ke. If Krishna decides, one will be killed. If Krishna wants to protect, one will be protected. We have seen examples in Parikshit Maharaj. He was protected in his mother's womb, even though a Brahmastra came their way. And Krishna protected him even in his mother's womb. We see even, Jarasandh, even during the fight, where the Pandavas, they held Jarasandh responsible for killing, although Abhimanyu was killed in a Chakravyuh, but Jarasandh was the one who played a key role in that. And Arjuna took a vow that I am going to kill Jarasandh tomorrow, otherwise I'm going to self-immolate myself, burn myself. And so Dronacharya did everything to protect Jarasandh the next day in the battlefield. And it was almost coming towards the sunset. And what did Krishna do? He's the supreme controller. He covered the sun. Everybody thought, the Kauravas thought, including Jarasandh, thought it was sunset, and they were celebrating that Arjuna is now going to kill himself. And Krishna shows, and Jarasandh just comes out from the the hiding behind so many soldiers, the protection of the soldiers in the Kaurava side. He comes out in the open, thinking that he's no longer in danger. And Krishna shows Arjuna Jarasandh, and he removes that covering from the sun. And Arjuna decapitates Jarasandh immediately. So Vidura is trying to tell the Dhritarashtra in this verse again by pointing to the Yadus that, they are powerful and their king is Krishna. He's not just the Supreme Lord, he is the one in complete control. He's the one in control. So do not fight him. Are you fool? Can you even not see what you're doing? Just see what you're doing. Take refuge of Krishna. And, one who takes shelter of Krishna, Sarvadharman Parityajan, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Krishna says right at the end of Bhagavad Gita. You forget everything else. Just take shelter of me. I will protect you. And Vidura tells tells Dhritarashtra right in the first line by mentioning Partha and mentioning Krishna Mukunda, that Partha, the Pandavas, that Arjuna and the Pandavas have taken shelter of Krishna. And where there is Partha, where there is Krishna, there can never be any failure. There can never be any loss. And where does it come again? It's a reiteration, isn't it? We hear that in the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, where Sanjaya says to Dhritarashtra, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Sri Vijaya Bhutir, Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. Or wherever there is Krishna, who's the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will certainly be opulence, there will certainly be victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That's the last verse. That's what the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is. And Vidura says exactly the same thing over here. He mentions that in the first line of this verse by mentioning Arjuna and Krishna. And then he repeats the word Deva, Deva, Deva in the following 3 lines again, just to say, Dhritarashtra, you're doing very wrong. Take shelter of Krishna. But obviously we know Dhritarashtra doesn't listen to it. But what can we take from it? So to conclude, through these verses, that constant wisdom that Vidura is giving Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, they may not understand, but this is the teaching that is given to us, that Krishna is the supreme power. He's the benevolent Father. He's our shelter. He's always protecting us as long as we follow the path of dharma. And wherever he is, whenever he is with us, we need not fear at all. We need not fear at all, as we heard earlier, but we can rest assured that victory is always going to be with us if we are able to follow the path that has been given to us by Krishna in the right way, as the Pandavas did. So take away all the Kauravas from our hearts and ensure that we have the Pandava-like features, the Pandava-like qualities in our heart for us to enable us to do work or our action or to act in a way as the Pandavas and not the Kauravas. So that is what is basically primarily these 2 verses, verses 11 and verse 12 of Canto 3, Chapter 1. So with that, I do apologize. I've gone 2 minutes overboard. Sincere apologies. Please correct me if I've made any mistakes. But thank you once again for giving me the opportunity. I pray to my Guruji, who without his mercy, I wouldn't have been able to do this service. I pray to the Jagat Gurus, to Krishna and Radharani for giving me this opportunity to serve you and serve Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. So I'm not sure if Kirtika Mataji's system is working.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Shira Prabhupada. And thank you so much for taking us through today's discourse. It's such a wonderful piece of encouragement and inspiration for us devotees or aspiring devotees in this line, in this path of Krishna consciousness. And really resonate with how you can actually be with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as himself in the same family, in the same place, and still be blinded that he's not really God. He's just maybe another demigod, just like Duryodhan. And as we were giving the class, I could not fail to realize really even how in our lives, sometimes we just have our doubts, and all we can do is pray and pray, pray and pray for more clarity and more revelation, that we can really have that firm conviction that actually Krishna is the supreme personality and really take shelter in him. As Vidura was trying to tell Duryodhan and maybe soften our hearts that had we are almost in the same shoes in our day-to-day lives. But yeah, so thank you so much for that great discourse. Hare Krishna. I don't know whether there's any other question from the assembled devotees. If there's none, I would kindly request all the devotees to kindly unmute. We do one Maha Mantra in glorification of our today's mentor, Her Grace Panchali Kar Mataji, and the Srimad Bhagavatam discourse. Thank you.
Urmila Mataji, have you got a question? Sorry.
No.
Okay.
I got ready to
Okay.
say the mantra.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you again. Let's say the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare
Hare.
Vanchak,
Panchakatarivyascha Kripatimukhaischa Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Namo Namaha. Srimad Bhagavatam
Ki Jai.
Jai. Her Grace Panchali Kar Mataji ki Jai.
His great Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhupada Mataji's. And let's do a big Jai for Srila Prabhupada as well. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji's and Mataji's. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.